From falling iguanas to exploding trees, the weather is in everybody's mind right now. So shouldn't it be in your writing as well? Stay tuned. Welcome to the Christian Indie Writers Podcast, where we inform, encourage, and support Christian indie writers on their journey toward publication. I'm Jennifer Carl Tong, and I write historical Christian romance.
I'm Christina Katana, and I write Christian fiction and nonfiction.
I'm Jamie Hirschberger. I write short fiction under the pen name J.R. Nichols.
Good morning, ladies. Are you guys staying warm where you are?
Trying.
Yes.
So we were just getting ready to go live, and Jamie brought up the she basically said, I hope you were concerned about Tina and I, right? And that you hope that, you know, and Tina and I are kind of like, I think it's just going to be normal weather for it. Yes, we do have like really low temperatures, but I think we're more prepared for it. Like, what do you think, Tina? Like, do you feel that there's a panic around here?
Well, some people. Yeah. Some people panic, and then some people just like, it's just another Michigan winter.
I feel like.
But there's inevitably they forecast Snowmageddon or Ice-mageddon or Frozen-mageddon, whatever it's going to be. Right. And the news says, beware of exploding trees and frost earthquakes. And everybody runs to the store and buys all the bread and milk and toilet paper. And so if you need those things, it's gone because everybody has hoarded it. And then 2 days later, it was all a big nothing bomb. So like, I feel like it happens over and over again that way.
Yes. And what I would like to know is how much bread and milk are these people consuming on a regular basis, that these are the items that they stockpile? Like, you would think canned goods, or I mean, I don't know, maybe even like lean cuisines or something. Yeah, like, why bread and milk? Are people legitimately planning to eat bowls of bread and milk? Like, if their power goes out?
If your power goes out, you can't cook. So you would probably have to live on cereal and sandwiches.
I guess.
Maybe that's the...
Do you think the majority of people in Michigan have gas stoves? Because I mean, like, I'm ready to move back to electric. That's a whole nother discussion. I hate,
really? Let's swap. I hate my electric stove.
I want one of those solid tops. Like, I am so sick and tired of cleaning my gas stove and all the nooks and crannies, and you can't get it all. Like, you got to get in there with a toothbrush every single time you cook. And I'm tired of it. It's like not even worth it, because I had electric before this one. And I'm like, no, I want to get back to gas. I want to get back to gas. But I had electric for 10 years, right? At both the house before this one and this one. And now that I have gas, I'm like, what was I in such a hurry for this? Like, I don't see that big of a difference in the way, at least the way I cook. And I cook a lot. And this stupid stove, which I was not very careful when picking it out, did buy it used. So, I mean, I'm frugal. It's also a gas oven. Never again. Because it's not consistent, like for baking. It's terrible. I hate this stove.
Interesting.
Well, first
world problems, to speak with you. Yes, because then you kind of get a new perspective and can be a little thankful.
But the issue is,
sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, if you have a gas stove, you just have to have a lighter, and you can light it, and you can still cook. So go ahead.
Or you can have a fireplace, and you can just...
Which I have that too. Or you have...
Your fireplace, everybody. Be careful burning anything indoors. Please, please, please be careful.
Why be careful with your fireplace?
Just in general, burning anything indoors. Okay, so, you know, I'm on the old TikTok because I don't care if the government steals my data or whatever is supposed to be the problem with it. But anyway, this lady was on there and she's like, the last time there was whatever storm thing, people who are not used to the cold don't really think about things like carbon monoxide or whatever. And so one of her things was she would prefer that nobody burn anything indoors, even the fireplace, because of what she saw. I know, but just be careful.
You have to call the the guy from Mary Poppins that dances on the roof. That guy has to come once a year.
Dick Van Dyke.
Clean the creosote out of your fireplace, and then it's perfectly safe.
Yeah, for real.
I
Oh
actually
golly.
asked my guy if he would sing that song while he was on the roof. And he laughed at me.
My guy, actually, I need to get a new guy. My guy retired. Saddish radish, but
Mm.
yeah. Anywho, yeah. The other thing that Michiganders have is we almost, not all of us, but almost all of us have generators, especially if you live in the country. Because I mean,
Hmm.
sometimes we'll just get a bad rainstorm and I will lose power just because there's trees and like there's just a lot in the country.
Yeah.
We
I
have
was gonna, when I was almost interrupting you before, I did interrupt you before. I was gonna say this is the reason God created generators.
yeah.
And
So
your stove.
yeah. And so ours is not a whole house generator. That's on my wish list. Is one that would just kicks in by itself. Those are awesome. A lot of people out here have those. But ours is big enough that we can run my furnace and we can run our water pump. And then we might have to move some things around. Like the refrigerator is good for a while, right? And then when I need to plug it in, I'll plug it in. And like I can plug in my stove if I don't need to because mine's all gas. I can even use my oven if I wanted to. Kind of. It's hard, but anywho, having said all of that, is I don't think that I'm not downplaying this whole storm. I think that I'm more concerned about those of you in the South who are not prepared for this kind of weather, even though this is going to be incredibly cold for us. And it's probably, I mean, I remember it being -17 a few years ago, and there was a lot of school closings because of it. And this is supposed to be -20. So it is colder, but you just got to be smart about it. And I feel like we're more used to it. So people are not going to be as stupid. I hope.
And honestly, if the problem is the cold, you really don't need to worry about your refrigerator.
Yeah.
Just put your food outside.
Right. It's that time of year that you have an extra freezer, an extra fridge, which is now your garage becomes your extra fridge.
It was like normal in the wintertime at our house in Alaska. There was a whole grocery store on our back porch. Like
Right.
there was food out there. Like, I mean, it wasn't like exposed; it was packaged, and
Right.
but my mom would put bread and all kinds of stuff out on the porch to keep it cold.
Yep. For reals. All right. Well, because this is on top of everyone's mind though right now, because as Jamie pointed out before we even started that the press is kind of blowing it out of proportion. This is what my point, I guess, is I think they are blowing it out of proportion, but not for the whole country. I think that there are definitely parts of our country that really need to prepare. In our area though, like whatever. But anyway, it is top of our mind. And so Jamie made this suggestion that we should talk about weather in your writing. And at first I'm like, what do you mean by that? And she made a really good point about the fact that, you can definitely use weather as a device in your writing. So let's get into that conversation today, ladies. Okay. So I'm trying to find the outline. Okay. So why does weather matter in fiction? Who'd like to start?
Well, I think that it makes the world real. Like, other than probably Disney, even in Disney movies, there's a rainstorm every now and then. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
it's not all sunshine and butterflies and birds chirping in the air. And beautiful clouds. There are storms, there's rain, there's snow. So I feel like if you're going to have an actual real world, it needs to have weather.
Right. And I would like to say, like, it needs to be more than background noise too.
Yeah.
Because it's like, as I've always said, I know you guys are probably getting tired of hearing me say this, but if it doesn't move your story forward, it doesn't need to be in your story. So it needs to serve a purpose. And we're going to talk about the different purposes that it can serve. But I think that's very important to say up front.
Right.
Oh, Jamie, you're muted, hon.
So you're saying don't write weather just for the sake of writing weather.
Exactly. Right.
How do you know whether you should write weather?
Whether or not to write weather?
Oh my goodness.
Well, I think that you need to think about how readers would like subconsciously respond to the different types of weather that you're like. That's the first thing to think about. Like if it's really maybe not like, ooh, how am I going to put weather into my writing? And more about what am I trying to evoke in my readers right now? and how am I going to do that? And sometimes weather can be one of those things. Like, so how does people react subconsciously? So like, for example, the book I'm working on right now, in Widows of the West Book 1, weather plays kind of a big role in the theme. It's actually it's in the title. It's going to be the actual name of the book is A Quiet Thunder. And so how do people react to when they hear thunder? How do people react when there's a slow, soft pitter-patter rain? How do people react under the blazing heat sun? You know, you think about these things, and like, you wouldn't want to talk about how the sun is beating down on a tin roof and then she's just out picking daisies. It's not affecting her. Like, that would not work. You need to use it as a device to help your readers to experience what your character is experiencing. That's what I think.
Well, and I think too, if you, I mean, we're talking about weather because it's cold outside, and that then provoked us to have a conversation about it, right? Mm-hmm. So in the same way, to your point, the weather will affect your character and the reader. But how about, Jen, like, for example, I know your upcoming book is, like, you had a book that had a Remembrance Day. I don't know if you thought about the release because it's not as big of a event as like Christmas, but you've got a book that has a Christmas kind of scene, or like Christmas is happening, right? So do you think about that when you think about when to release your book as well? Because, you know, that part of the weather is kind of a component of your book.
I don't know if I think about it for release, because that Christmas book is going to get released in July, so that I have plenty of time to use it in the Christmas time for sales and things like that.
Oh, good idea. Okay.
I got that from another author, so that's not my own idea.
Love it.
But I did specifically, and I never thought, I never shared this before, but my first series specifically deals with the different seasons. The first book, Anna's story, ends in May. It ends, so it's a spring book. The second book was supposed to end in summer, but guess who didn't really research when World War II ended? And the story was really it was pivotal that a character came home from war. So that one actually ended much later than I wanted to. But when I was writing it, when I was planning out these books, it was supposed to be the summer book. Yeah. And then Phoebe's book was the fall book that ends before it turns really winter. So if you read that, you'll see that it ends before winter starts. And then the last book is definitely set at Christmas time. And so, and the covers reflect that. The covers were supposed to reflect that without putting it in your face. So yeah, I did use weather for book covers, and I used weather for the writing, even though it didn't turn out as perfectly as I wanted.
And in my first two books, one's Alaskan summer and one's Alaskan winter. And I just keep thinking, I was trying to think of a movie that, a famous movie that didn't have weather as a part of, and so I was thinking like The Little Mermaid, there was a storm. That's how she ended up saving Prince Eric, right?
Spoiler!
Frozen, like, spoiler alert. That's how she meets Prince Eric. And Frozen, like this weather's huge.
The whole thing is weather. Yeah.
Like I don't know. Like even Forrest Gump, there was a storm. I don't know how often do you have these movies where someone's like all put together and dressed nice and they have to go somewhere important and suddenly it starts pouring rain. Like it just seems like no matter what movie I thought of, and I'm sure they're out there, I'm just not thinking of them, but it just seems like weather shows up in everything.
Right. And so the story can be very high pacted by weather. The characters can be affected by weather. But I also think that, like, before we move on, we want to talk about that. It can also just be more subtle too. Like it could do things that can slow the pacing down of your story or speed it up depending on what weather you're using. But we talk in length about weather in episode 3 or 4. So pacing. So if you're interested in finding out more about what we mean about pacing your story, go check out episode 304.
It can also show mood too, along with the pacing. Like, is the person depressed? Are they happy? Like, change the weather.
All right.
On that.
That's a great transition. So let's move on to the next part, is weather as mood and atmosphere. So one thing you can do is match it the weather to the emotional tone. So what are some ways that we could do, like, give us some examples of that?
Oh, she finds out he's a cheater, and then the next scene opens that it's gray and gloomy outside and kind
Yes.
of a rainy day, and she's taken to her bed in tears or whatever.
Yep. That's a good one.
Yeah. And the ice and the cold and the snow, it can someone could be lonely, someone could be angry, like it could it could really evoke all kinds of emotions depending on how you do it.
Right. Could also
Mhm.
as the coming out of a certain kind of weather,
Mhm.
like a storm and then the sun starts peeking out, can give our readers a glimpse of that something's about to change or that they're coming out of the storm. So,
Mhm. And
And
also, yeah,
also
they compare the seasons to life cycles. So if
mm,
someone's older and like they're winding down in their life, like wintertime and spring being like young and new life and all that. So
okay.
And you can show somebody's character by like the contrasting. So instead of her taking to her bed in tears when it's a gloomy day, there could be somebody who's unusually chipper and happy and peppy in spite of the fact that the weather is terrible. So it can reveal your character through contrast.
I love that. I love the idea of doing it with contrast because go back to your Tina's example of Frozen. Like you would think the word frozen means you're like, set in stone or you're not going to move. And you would think that a snowstorm would make everybody, which I wrote about this a little bit actually, would make everybody like, hole up but no, it freed her. So for her, the snowstorm and the winter storm freed her. So I love the idea of taking it and contrasting it. That's a great idea. All right. Is there anything that we should avoid when doing the mood and atmosphere?
Well, you don't want to do a cliche. You
No.
don't want to say it's raining cats and dogs. Which is interesting because I wonder if any of our international listeners are familiar with the phrase that we use. It's raining cats and dogs, which apparently comes from the days of thatched roofs. And apparently, cats and dogs would literally fall through the roof because the rain would make your roof soft enough for that to happen. But if you want to say it's raining men, and then invite me onto the dance floor, that's acceptable. But do not
oh my
do
god.
not use cliches, overused expressions to express weather in your writing, I would say.
Right. And when we say cliches, we mean like the cats and dogs things. You can say it's pouring. You can use terminology that people are familiar with. But
Mhm.
you can also be a little bit more creative with it too. Find new metaphors and like that.
Right, you
So,
don't want to overuse it, or you don't want to like keep using the same descriptors.
mm,
Like if it rains in every chapter, you don't want to say it's pouring rain in every chapter. You might want to switch up your adjectives or even change the way it's raining. Like maybe you're just living in a world where it rains all the time. I would like get out of the thesaurus and find out like 100 different ways to describe rain so that you're not just being repetitive and boring.
I might also argue too that if it's always raining, that maybe you don't focus on the rain all the time. Like you just let
Right.
everybody know that it's always raining, and that because otherwise, I feel like then you're overusing It'd be like if it was always sunny.
Mm-hmm.
If you constantly always talk about it always being sunny, people are like, okay, we get it, right? So,
Right.
Mhm.
all right, so let's talk about genre expectations. We all write different genres. Do you think that there are different expectations depending on what you're writing?
For weather, I sort of feel like, excuse me, if you're writing fantasy and maybe even some sci-fi, you're going to have a possibly foreign world or foreign planet where your readers are going to expect you to fill them in as to how it's different or the same as our lived reality as earthlings and, or whatever. So I think for those genres, that's the expectation.
Okay.
And I think the weather was used differently in different genres. Like a storm in a fantasy novel, it's going to have different repercussions for the story than, say, a storm in a murder mystery or a romance.
Right.
That like it's just going to like the reasons you use it in the story are completely different.
Right. I would use a storm to bring a couple together. Like they get holed up in the same like barn, like they're running and they have to get, to hold off the storm and then they're alone, the two of them. Like I would use that. You're not going to use that in a murder mystery. If you do the same way, one of them is probably a murderer, right?
Right.
Like
That's right. If there's a storm and two people end up in a cabin together,
yeah.
one of them is a killer.
Yes, one of them
Or at least a red herring.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. But I would argue, as far as expectations, I am not sure that if you left mentioning the weather out of romance, that you would be, that they would be calling you out and canceling you.
Agreed.
Whereas I think in fantasy and sci-fi or action, because like if you're, for example, they're going to go into battle, well, the weather's going to be important, So I think if you could kind of, and cozy, I think sometimes the weather is important because it is used as a plot device, which we're going to talk about. So,
right. So I think,
right. And I was thinking also about the Star Wars movie where they were on that frozen planet and they had this strange, do you know which movie? I don't know if it's Empire Strikes Back, maybe, where they're on that cold planet and then Luke is lost out in the cold and he has to get inside this creature.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
Sorry, lots of spoilers today. Listen, if you haven't watched that yet, I don't know what you've been doing.
You're probably never going to watch it. It probably isn't your thing.
I don't even know why you woke up this morning.
So I think we would all agree that it is it's a device. It's not something that you. I want to use the word expectation lightly. What I meant was if you are going to use it, there's probably some expectations maybe of how it's going to be used, but that we're just saying this is a device. We're not saying like, oh, you got to go back to all your writing and make sure you put weather in. Maybe you don't. Maybe you never mention the weather. Like I think that there is an argument, there could be an argument with, especially with contemporary romance, that the weather maybe never is mentioned. It would have nothing to do, especially like, let's say you're in the city. And it's a city, it's like a billionaire romance. The weather probably never comes up because you're jumping from building to limo to house, So this is just a device.
And on the opposite end of that spectrum, if you have a story in an adventure in the wilderness where people are trying to survive and get through the wilderness, you better have some weather.
Yes, because that would not be realistic if there wasn't some weather, right?
Right.
I've been watching this. I found just kind of happened across her. This girl that she's hikes and she shares that, but she bought a cabin in the middle of like Arkansas or whatever, and she's just kind of young Christian girl, and her dad's helping her build it out and stuff. Anyway, she deals with weather stuff all the time, and this is like real life. So as you say that, I'm thinking, yeah, because in real life, like even if you have a cabin, you're still struggling with like the rain coming
the Little House books and all that and historical, because like the weather was important, and I think we're going to talk more in the next section. So
right. So let's move on to the next section. So let's talk about how we actually do it. So there's reasons why, and there's some expectations, but how, to the nitty gritty, how do you write weather, ladies?
Okay, so I've been waiting to say this, so it's probably a little farther in the outline, but sometimes weather is another character in your novel. Sometimes weather is so important that you might as well almost name it Jerry or something because it can be really powerful and a good component. The example that you gave, Jen, of it being rainy every day until the day it's sunny. And then what is that all about, right? So that's something to kind of keep in your back pocket if you're feeling like, I don't know what is missing in my book. I don't have a good antagonist or something. Like, consider the weather. That's all. Thanks for letting me.
Man versus nature.
Yes.
Freshman year of high school. I remember having to memorize all that. So man versus man versus nature. Yeah, it definitely can be its own character.
Yeah. And I think the most important thing about putting weather in your book is how does it affect your point of view character? Does it put an obstacle in their path, or does it move them forward? Does it change their mood, their attitude, their way of seeing the world? Like, there's so much. Like, you could go on and on about how it affects your main character.
Right. And so when writing it, that's how you write it, is through your point of view character. Like how, like they are noticing it, And I mean, you can write it obviously third person omniscient, like just mention the weather, but how much more is it going to be like impactful if you're writing the perspective of the person that's trying to repair their roof as the storm is and the rain is coming down their face and they can't hardly see what they're doing. But if they don't get this tarp on the roof, then they're going to lose everything inside the house or whatever. It's lightning flashing, but it's all like what they're experiencing. It's not you just talking about the rain and talking about the fact that there's lightning. Like, how does it feel on their face? How does how our chilled are they? Like, how like loud is the thunder?
That
like,
smell after the storm.
Yes.
It's over.
What, Jamie?
Petrichor. That's the word that Tina's hunting for. It's the smell of.
I wasn't hunting for it, but thank you for telling us what it is.
I thought, petrichor. Sorry about that. Yeah. It's a pleasant smell that accompanies rain after a long period of dryness. Anyway, but there's a scene in the book Far from the Maddening Crowd by Thomas Hardy that demonstrates this so perfectly. The main shepherd guy is racing to get the feed covered with these big giant tarps, and it's just written so well. And it's his experience that makes the weather more important. Like it really adds to like your anxiety, and it ramps up the tension. It's so great. But the important things were the sensory details. Like he's talking about how his hatchet or whatever he's using is more slippery. Can't see when someone is approaching. Like all of those sensory details really make the weather real. And it's not like, they said, oh, a storm is coming. It was literally lifetime reaction to the storm happening that gave the pull.
Yeah, like their emotions are so much more important than like some sort of meteorological like facts or whatever. Like I actually have a scene in my upcoming book, Forgiving Sarah, where she's looking out the window at the gray sky and she makes a comment like, why is it always so gray in winter? And for her, it's because it's like, oh, why is it so gray in my life right now? Kind of a thing. And Grant gives her the scientific reason why it's so gray outside. And then she doesn't say anything. She just looks at him and he goes, you weren't looking for that, were you? Like, so I use it as a little kind of humor point, but also just show the difference between the two of them. She's very much dreamy and kind of like, and he's very analytical. He's very much a professor. And so I didn't even think about that until just now. So like the emotional reaction is what you're going for. It doesn't really matter if you know that word that Jamie used that I can't remember already, or why lightning strikes or the fact that lightning strikes up from the ground instead of down, which I did not know till I was a full grown adult. So all of those things, like it's cool if you can include them, but it's more important that you get the emotional reaction.
Well, and like you just pointed out, that whole scene revealed a lot about your characters and how they're different. Character traits can be revealed by those kinds of conversations about the weather and the ways that people deal with the weather. Because spoiler alert, because everybody's going to rush out to read Thomas Hardy, I know. He is not the only one who cares about this, but he's just about the only one who cares about it. And there's only one other character who cares. And it really shows something about the similarity between these people and how they're like-minded. And it's cool.
I just had an idea of a scene I want to write now. I can't wait for us to get off air so I can write this. But like to show Mr. Boss, who is like kind of gruff at the beginning of the book, but like if it's downpouring rain and everyone's rushing past you because they don't want to get wet and they're rushing into the building, but one guy stops and holds his umbrella over you, that shows you a lot about a person that you've never met them, you don't know anything about, but now you know that person, right? So that's a great scene too. So right, what about metaphor and symbolism? Like we all grew up reading the classics, right? And like Steinbeck and Twain, all of them are really great at this. So how can we use weather with a metaphor or symbolism?
I think a lot of what we talked about, we were sort of accidentally talking about it. I mean, if we're talking about the weather being gray and gloomy, And really, that's supposed to mean like our characters are feeling some kind of gray and gloomy way. This is more or less what we're talking about, isn't it? Except we just didn't put a label on it at the time, right?
Agreed.
And I think, honestly, Frozen is probably my favorite Disney movie that was ever made. Mostly because the main character saved herself. Like the act of true love that she needed, that had to happen, was her doing it. I love that. But the metaphor, I don't even care. The metaphor of her sister like bottling up her emotions and keeping her hands covered with the gloves and like don't let it out. Like the whole song "Let It Go" is all about her letting out all the stuff she'd been bottling up her whole life. And as she's letting it out, this huge storm is forming and it's blowing, and like a huge ice castle is made, and it's all a metaphor for all the junk that she's been hiding inside and trying to keep inside for her whole life. And so like that's probably one of my favorite movies, the way they do that.
All right, all right, before we move on to the next section, what about as a plot device? We talked about it as metaphor. We've talked about how to do it, but how do we do it? Use it as a plot device.
Oh my goodness. If you ever get stuck, it's funny because back in the days of NaNoWriMo, what do I write? Well, you have something happen, and having the weather manufacture something for you is a little cheaty, like, you know, the God in the Machine, Deus Ex Machina, or whatever. But weather can be that and suddenly device that compels your characters to do something, act a certain way, take that next step. So if you're kind of feeling stuck, maybe throw a thunderstorm at your characters, or something even worse like snowmageddon, or a potential for a tornado, or whatever would be appropriate in their time period and their life, because you can use it to advance to the next thing if your people are just standing around not doing what you need them to do.
Right.
And if you're like Wizard of Oz, sometimes the weather can change the entire course of the story.
That's a great example.
And blow your character into a strange land with munchkins.
That's a great idea. I was going to mention, like, if you're a plotter like me, like, plan for it. Use it as one of your disasters or one of your plot points. So, which
literal disaster.
Literal disaster. So it can create obstacles, make them forced, like literally creating obstacles and forcing a decision. That's a plot point. That's where I move from act 1 to act 2, or from act 2 to act 3, like specifically. So weather is perfect for that. And just make sure that you use it realistically too. Like, don't make it so, like, if you're writing if you are writing, like Tina suggested, like a outdoor adventure kind of it definitely is going to be large, like Jamie mentioned, it being like man versus nature. But if it's a romance, make sure you just don't over exaggerate the weather. Don't make it such a big thing unless it's going to be part of your theme and you're going to use it throughout the story, like I'm going to with this first book. Jamie,
well, of course, if you're writing fantasy and like the rain falls and there's like magic in the raindrops that like turn things purple, I don't know,
but it has purpose and it's moving the story
like
forward.
It still has to be, it has to make your readers just put aside disbelief.
Right. And that's, I guess,
it has
where
to be believable.
That's what I'm talking about. That's all right. The God in the Machine. So, you know, the basic Bond setup where the villain is giving his whole monologue or whatever, and then the weather saves the day. Like, I mean, you kind of don't want to do that. Like, I mean, Agreed. I guess if you have to, you've got no other way to get your hero out of their problem. You don't want to, like, you know, throw a tornado randomly in the middle of a scene to solve your problems.
Unless you're writing a parody.
I'd read that.
Yeah. All right, real quick, let's wrap this up with common mistakes when writing weather. What are some common mistakes, ladies?
Oh, I think you pointed one out just right there, Jen, is to make sure it's realistic, right?
And don't info dump. That's another thing.
Oh,
like,
please,
we don't need to know all the details that you know about weather.
Or use the weather as an excuse to info dump. The rain reminded me of that one time that blah, 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 happened, right?
Right. You can, though, you could, on the opposite side of that, it could make you think of a story and do a flashback about the weather, but use it properly, not as info dump.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
And the weather, it shouldn't, we talked about this earlier, like again, repeating, the weather is sunny. The weather is sunny. Like, why are you even talking about it unless later it becomes important? So just don't repeat yourself.
Remember that book that I read a few months ago that really annoyed me because every time, like, they just kept going on they would fight, and then the next thing you know, they're on a picnic. Picnics were used so much in the story, it would drive me crazy. Same thing with weather. You can't keep using it.
And you don't want it to overshadow your character and your main plot.
Right. Anything else?
No, I think we've covered it. Really?
Again, it's also one more thing. Make sure you know your region that you're writing about. If you're writing about an area that you don't live in, make sure you research the weather. This is something I've been doing a lot of with my series that I'm working on right now, because winter is different in Texas than it is here. And if you're going to write about, let's say you're going to write about Michigan and you're not from here, and you talk about how the city gets shut down when it's 20 some degrees, we're all going to laugh at you. Like, it's going to be negative 20 something here, and we're not shut down. Schools are closed, but the rest of life just keeps going on, right? So,
and I just have to point out from your opening, when it gets really cold in Florida, apparently iguanas fall out of trees.
What is that?
But when it gets really cold in the north, the sap inside trees freezes and causes them to explode.
Okay. So we're
apparently.
So the podcast is done now. We're moving into some chit chatty time real quick before we do our feeding of the backs. But I've lived in Michigan nearly my whole life. When I wasn't in Michigan, I was in Boston. But in Michigan, I have never in my life heard of this. I have never seen this. I would love to hear from some of our Canadian listeners, anyone, Alaskan listener. Tina, you used to live in Alaska. Did you ever?
But I lived in southern Alaska.
Oh, southern Alaska, where it's tropical.
Where it's very similar to where we live right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The temperatures. But if you go up into interior, because I lived in a valley surrounded by mountains and in the southern part, Alaska's so big that living in Anchorage compared to Barrow, which is the most northern city, is the same type of distance as us living in Michigan and Jamie living in Florida.
Okay.
Like, that's how far away from each other they are. So being in the South.
But still, we'd never heard of exploding trees, and now all of a sudden it's all over the
tree
nose.
Cracking. Like, I heard of like a branch cracking.
Well,
because the sap froze but exploding, I think that's an over exaggeration.
I'll see it when I believe it. I'll believe it when I see it. I mean,
if a tree explodes in the forest, but Jen isn't there to see it, does it make a sound?
Nope, it sure doesn't. All right, Teresa says, Michigan storm chasers, I follow them. If you're in Michigan and you don't follow them,
that's where I first heard of this.
Posted about this yesterday. Exploding really just refers to the noise of trees cracking and breaking. Okay.
I've heard that a lot. I was in the ice storm of 2024, I guess it was 20. Yeah. And I did hear that.
She said they said there's no such thing as exploding trees. See, there I go. I believe them because they are not part of like the sensationalized media that's out there.
Right. But it was just fun to talk about exploding trees and falling iguanas. Like, that's just fun.
Yes. And also, you never know, it could have been an AI situation where whatever images were generated. Right. Check out our episode from last week.
Catherine Carroll says the wind chill here is negative 25. It's warmed up since I woke up. Good for you.
She's up in the northern now. She's up in the northern part of Michigan where they're saying the trees are going to explode. So,
and way earlier today, sorry, I was not looking at the chat, you guys. I'm just going to say G because it's GJU13 says.
GRJU.
Yeah, okay, I can't even read it. She says they're making bread sandwiches. Yes, I agree with that. They could be making milk toast. This is something my dad would serve us when we were sick. For some reason, his mom gave it to him when he was sick. Like, you make toast and you put milk on it, and he still eats it when he doesn't feel well.
You could get some eggs and make French toast.
Right. And Tina TR agrees with you. He says, yeah, Frozen is a beautiful twist on the true love trope. Agree with that. Okay, our favorite time of the day, it's the feeding of the backs. This is where I feel like we should have some sort of sound effect. This is where we move into our time of what we wrote today. So if you are new to the podcast, every week we choose one prompt and all three of us write to it. We set a timer for 15 minutes and then we don't look at it again. We don't edit. We don't touch it up. We don't even read it again. And we come on here like crazy fools and share it live with the rest of you. So Jamie, be our first fool and share with us what the prompt was. And then please share with us what you wrote.
Happily, today our prompt was 5 words, and they were snow, wind, silence, shelter, and wait. And I got way more of the words than I thought, than I normally do. I think I only missed one. So yay me.
Awesome. Yay.
And also, Jen, note that I wrote this before the podcast and you talking about people being shut up together. Okay, here we go.
Oh.
Well, I guess we've got no choice but to hunker down here and wait until someone comes looking for us. Marguerite sighed. Of all the people to be shut in with, she would have to be shut in with Creed Hilton. At least he was useful, she thought, watching him move about the tiny cabin, stuffing washcloths and towels into the cracks in the walls. Do you think we should make a fire? She flung a mittened hand in the direction of the fireplace, eyeing it dubiously. She had used the word we when suggesting a fire be built, but the truth was she had never made a fire before in her life and didn't have a clue how to go about building one. Creed stepped over to the fireplace. At first glance, a reasonable idea, he said, then scritched the space where his forehead met his hat, causing the brown Stetson to tip back and expose a bit of his salt and pepper hair. Trouble is, I'm not sure what kind of shape the chimney's in. Last thing I remember seeing before we left civilization was some lady going on about how many people died during last year's big storm. He adjusted his posture and crossed his arms. A silence fell between them that made Marguerite squirm. She wondered if he was thinking, as she was, that it was her harebrained notions that had taken them away from the safety of what he called civilization and what she called a waste of her time. But he didn't seem to be judging her. He seemed instead to be staring meditatively into a fire that was not there. Well, Creed said, guess let's take a look. He got closer to the fireplace and crouched, grabbing a long stick-looking piece of metal that hung on a rack alongside a tiny shovel. Marguerite absently wondered how long they would be confined there. She tried desperately to remember any news she'd heard about the storm, but the truth is, she'd heard very little of it. The broadcast had merely been sound waves in her presence crashing against resistant ears as she'd schemed and plotted her escape of Hicktown. She was perfectly warm in her puffer coat and trapper hat, but she was starting to get hungry. If only they hadn't left their snacks back at the car. Think there might be some critters up there, Creed said, and she turned to look at him. So? Won't they run away or something when we make the fire? She saw his facial expression change. She could tell time's up.
Oh, no. I love this character. First of all, I got to tell you, you had me at Stetson because let me just tell you, I have 2 of my grandpa's Stetsons along with one of his other hats that he used to wear when he would go visiting people. And there's just, to me, there is nothing more manly than a Stetson. I don't know why. Probably because my grandpa was such a manly guy. I love this character. I love her. The fact that she's in a puffer and a what's a hat called again?
Trapper hat.
A trapper hat. Like, that just tells you so much about her right there. Like, this is awesome. I love it so much. I love that they're trapped. I love that, like, the salt and pepper hair and the Stetson. Like, I'm in. I'm here for it. This is so good, Jamie.
Thanks. I enjoyed writing it.
I have never heard anything more greenhorn and sourdough in my life. And if you don't know what those words mean, Google it.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah. All right. Who gets to be next? Jen, are you next up?
I will go next. Okay. So I guess this is kind of Marnie, kind of biographical. So, all right. People who live in the city don't understand silence. In the city, there is constant sound. Even in the middle of the night when most people are asleep and the city is at its quietest, it still isn't silent. There is a constant buzz, a vibration that lets you know that even though you are trying to sleep, the city is still awake, alive and breathing its concrete and metal and glass existence. But even that insistent hum is interrupted by the sound of a passing ambulance, a group of college students walking home after the local bars have closed, or a car honking at whatever other vehicle dare be out when it should be parked and asleep as well. But when it snows, everything stops. Not a snowflake or two, of course, but a heavy, school closing, car burying kind of snow. It doesn't happen often in Boston, but when it does, it is the only force powerful enough to silence the vibration. That moment after the last flake has fallen and the wind has stopped blowing, but before the plow trucks carve their way through the neighborhoods, that is the moment the city finally experiences silence. The problem is, most of the city's residents never experience the silence, too preoccupied with hunkering down in their warm shelters, too content to wait out the storm to experience the silence. They miss it and they don't even know it. Once in college, Marty and some friends found themselves across town for a concert when a storm hit. None of them knew it was coming, so when they stepped out of the venue to the foot of snow, they were, as you could expect, stunned. The entire city was shut down. With the T and all the buses stopped and no cab in sight, they had no other choice but to walk 3, 2, 1.
Oh man, it was
Mm.
just getting good. Like it
That
was
was
good,
excellent.
but
Excellent
gosh.
lead up, right, Tina? That's what it is we had the
Yeah.
wind up and the pitch was coming and we were all ready for it. Yeah,
And
really
then you
good.
don't know if it was a home run or not.
Mhm. Mhm. And I would like now to know where Marnie is from, that she knows real silence, right? Like I would like to hear that scene too, like when she
Yeah.
somehow goes back in her mind to back at home. Like, so this gives me all kinds of like want to read more feelings. So very well done.
Thanks.
Yeah. I love that. And I loved like all the way that you use the words. Like I didn't even know I have words to describe it, but there was just something poetic about the way that you use the words.
Thank you. I
Mhm.
appreciate that. But
Yeah, naming out things one by one, I think, Tina, that stopped, like all of the reasons why the city was still alive, and you kind of list them. And yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Yeah.
thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks. All right, Tina, your turn.
Okay. This may or may not be autobiographical. The gray light of winter made even the yellow walls seem cold. I pulled my fleece house jacket around me and pulled up my electric blanket. The wind under the eaves howled as if it thought it was in the Arctic, and snow blew at the windows like the special effects of an 80s space movie. I was grateful to be inside. My house was a shelter from the storm, literally, even if it wasn't the home of my dreams. It had a fireplace, but the flue was warped, which had necessitated closing off the chimney to keep the outsides out. The fake fireplace insert they replaced it with blew warm air out of a grate at the top, but it wasn't the same as having a real crackling fire in a stone hearth. I suppose growing up in Alaska gave me an idealistic idea of weathering the winter in a cozy log cabin full of furs to crawl under and stew made on top of a wood stove or even right in the fireplace. My reality had been nothing like that idealistic dream. We'd lived in a regular split entry modern American home with a furnace and forced air heat. It wasn't uncommon to have ice on the inside of the bedroom windows in the winter. My curtains, made of heavy red corduroy my mother had made to keep the light out in the summer, did a pretty good job of keeping the cold out in the winter. I mean, I really don't remember ever feeling that cold. We played outside every day in the cold, in the snow, in the dark. We walked to school in winter boots, bundled up in snowsuits, hats that doubled as face masks, warm mittens, scarves, and our ice skates with the laces tied together hung over our necks. My favorite thing was to climb up onto the snow burn and walk along the top of it. I wasn't the only one. There was a dark, beaten down path there from all the little feet that had walked on it.
Mhm.
Sometimes we walked in the snow. It wasn't anything unusual. It snowed in Alaska. People from down below in the lower 48 would probably consider it a blizzard. They'd probably raid the grocery stores for bread and milk and toilet paper. They'd probably cancel school. The only time they ever canceled school here was when the slush got too deep during breakup, or when the volcano erupted and dropped ash on the city, making it impossible to run any engines until it settled. I'll never forget that day, waking up and seeing what my 10-year-old self thought was black snow falling from the sky.
Mm-hmm.
The ash had gotten into the pipeline's computer system, so they'd picked up my dad with a dog sled, the dogs all in neon leather booties to protect their feet from the sharp ash, and taken him across the inlet to fix it. Still, the cold here felt colder than it had there, and the wind blew fiercer, and my old bones ached, and my sinuses screamed at me. 3, 2, 1.
Did your dad really get picked up by booty-wearing dogs?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so such great writing, but I have so many like that's so cool. Like
I thought it was pretty cool.
It is very cool. So, okay. Great experience, but the way you wrote it was also amazing because it like made us feel like we were there, and like what a great use of a memory, because now I'm like super excited about these neon wearing like orange booty or green booty dogs. Like I just booty dogs. That doesn't sound.
I know.
Anyway, booty, not booty. I'm gonna stop talking. Jamie, take over.
I feel like once again just demonstrates how Tina knows just the right amount of detail to give you to make you feel like you're there, but not feel like you're hearing endless detail. I really love the little feet up on the berm because it's like an adult remembering something to be precious that you probably didn't realize as a child was precious. You just, oh, here's other people's footprints. But now reflecting back, you have this feeling of like, oh, teeny little child with their teeny little footprints. And I just really like how when as an adult and you remember things from your childhood, how the perspective shifts. And so you really captured that very well. It's a very excellent piece of writing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And for those of us that have never,
geez.
Yeah, and for those of us that have never experienced black snow, like that, like the way you put that made us like feel like, oh, okay, like because
and to think, yeah,
that you survived that. Like in my mind, if there's a volcano, you're all dead. Everyone's gonna die. Like
right. Well, yeah, the volcano was like 10 miles away from where I was, so it was just the ash falling, and like I'd gone to bed the night before, and it was winter, so everything was white. And I looked out the window and everything was black. And this black stuff's falling. I'm like, why is the snow black? Like that was my immediate thought. And then found out it was ash.
Yes, the fact that you can't run your engine is not something you would think about. So necessitating the dogs, and also that it would be sharp. Like to think about the fact that it could cut the dog's feet. Like I would not have like thought of that, but now that you mention it, yeah, like lead shavings or pencil shavings are going to have like sharpness. It's just fascinating.
They're actually like glass, volcanic rock. You know how volcanic rock is glassy, so the ash is like glass, and so that's why you can't run the engines, because the intake would suck it all into the engine. And normally my dad would drive to the airport, take a small plane to Kenai, get on a helicopter, and go across. Like that's how he would get to work normally. Wow. So none of that was going to happen. And there's like 2 guys that knew how to fix the computers.
And then how do they clean all that up? Like there's that
I don't remember. I remember them saying, don't wipe your car because it would scratch the paint.
Wow.
But like I was 10. So like that was like how they cleaned it up and all that wasn't on my radar.
But still, what a great example of if you've not lived in the area, you really need to research the weather, because I would never have been able to write that scene without a ton of research, but you've experienced it. Not that someone can't, someone else can do the research, but it's those things like that I never knew. But what great stuff for your readers, because readers, you can watch the news, but to get that perspective, I feel like I got really schooled in how did like what happens in a volcano eruption. That's really awesome.
Yeah, really awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
All right, that was good stuff. So let's move on to what's like wrapping up and what's next. And if you're in our chat still and you'd like to share with us what your plans are for the coming week, we'd love to hear it. So what's next with you, Jamie?
I don't know.
That's
I
okay
haven't
too.
thought about it. What's next? Just keep on keeping on with the usual. I know I keep saying it, but I feel more like I'm closer to getting back into like fixing up my books and trying to get them published. Like I am moving in the right direction that way. But for now, everything just keeps on keeping on. How about you, Jen?
So I've been thinking a lot, like, okay, so y'all know I went through it with ads and I've like not looked over at ads at all, and I'm still not looking over at ads. But for those of you that are just tuning in, if you've never heard us say this, listen now, we are not experts. Like we really are. We're just here for you guys to be along the journey with us as we learn still and as we publish and do things. And I have, here's a confession. I have never adjusted like my books are in KU. I've never done like what do they call it? Tina, instruct me. When you put it down to 0, what's that called? When you do like a
Countdown?
5-day,
Countdown?
yeah, like a countdown deal or any of those things. I've never done
I
it.
don't remember what they call it, but you go in there and they for like 5 days you can put your book at 0. You're
So
on Kindle Unlimited.
my goal is I want to look at that, and I know that you can only do it once every so often, whatever. And I want to look at the net between now and July and see how many times I can run this for each of my books. Find a way to try to like get my book out there a little bit more. So
Good for you.
So this week, that's going to be my focus is to figure that out. And I know it's not hard. I just think literally it's clicking something, but like making a game plan for getting ready for this upcoming book more than just that. So yeah, that's what's next for me. And then still, I'm still sprinting in Marnie's world. But as April approaches, I really am thinking more of like, okay, I want this April for this sprint month. I want to have a little bit better game plan of where the story is going so I can be more strategic with my sprinting, which is not everyone's goal. I think that like there'll be some like years, it's like some Aprils or Novembers that I don't do that. So yeah, that's what's next for me is to be thinking about those things. What about you, Tina?
Well, I've been working on my nonfiction book, and I was just telling my writing group yesterday that it feels more like I'm taking transcription, like the things are getting downloaded in my brain, and I'm just kind of typing frantically to keep up with it. So it's been going really well, but then it's really nice to have a group of people read it and give their feedback and like say things like, do you think a new Christian would understand this term that you use that's really like Christianese?
Mm-hmm.
Like, because that's just the way, like I've been a Bible study teacher for 20 years. So being at the feet of Jesus, that was the phrase I used.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of the ladies said, well, do you think a new Christian would understand what that means if a new Christian was reading your book? So it's like, it's so awesome to have somebody say that to you. And then you can go, yeah, maybe I need to go back through here and maybe not take that phrase out, but maybe add an explanation of what that means into the book so that my book can be for the new Christian and for the 20-year Christian who just wants a closer relationship with Christ. So like, I guess this is my plug for having a really good critique group that will say things, who won't just like praise you and give, pat you on the back, but also give you feedback on how you can make it better. It's just wonderful to have that.
I agree. That's awesome. All right. Awesome. Well, thank you everybody who joined us today. And if you are here as a listener, as a podcast, we appreciate you as well. Please like, share, and subscribe as we try to grow this community of like-minded writers. And until next week, may your pen be prolific and may your deadlines be met. May all of your words honor Christ. Bye, everyone.
Bye.